Hello all, Antonio Tambornino here with my review of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. I kept forgetting to talk a little bit about the Dursleys, who are equally as memorable in the movies as they are in the books, even if I never imagined Mrs. Dursley looking like Fiona Shaw, who actually manages to do a good job of playing the role of Dudley's mother in these movies, but doesn't quite seem to hate Harry in the movies as much as is illustrated in the books. Vernon and Dudley, on the other hand, managed to play both of these memorable, hateful, lovable characters very well. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 is perhaps my favorite of all the Harry Potter movies, a drama unlike anything we've seen in this series yet. It has moments of comedy that are better done in this movie than I feel they've been done in the rest of the series, providing nice, heartwarming surprises in a movie that is quite dark, without being darker than is necessary, since it is adhering, actually rather well, to material that is grim in its nature, and very grim at that. Severus turns up at a gathering Voldemort has called into session, and it is there that the Dark Lord's presence is fully demonstrated, as people sit around at a table, mostly in fear, particularly Lucius Malfoy, as a poor woman hangs over Lord Voldemort's table, waiting for the inevitable, in terror, until she's finally killed off and fed to Voldemort's snake. Watching as Hedwig is killed off, one of the Weasley twins takes a hit to the side of his face, which leaves a really nasty scar. A spell turns up in the middle of Bill Weasley's wedding to interrupt with hard news of the Ministry of Magic falling. Harry, Ron, and Hermione suddenly separated from the people they care about, and having to watch their backs as Death Eaters and Snatchers are on the prowl. And that's just the beginning. There are also the scenes of the three of them in the Ministry of Magic to acquire one of Voldemort's Horcruxes. No easy task. Watching them make their way through the Ministry is as unnerving as it is also funny, bumbling about as people they've never met, trying to find something with little clue where to look. All the while, certain things do come up to lighten the mood even a little, having tiny horns fill a room with smoke to give Harry some cover. Harry and Ron running into each other, and for a moment, Ron does not recognize Harry, which is funny because we do recognize Harry because we've been with him for the last minute and a half, but we may not exactly remember who Ron is, which they both make a point of as soon as Harry says something, and then Ron says,
I forgot what you look like.
Ron making out with a stranger's wife, because for a moment he still looks like the stranger, until he doesn't anymore. It isn't until after they've left the Ministry and have Horcrux in hand that the rest of the movie feels quiet, subtle, intriguing, and beautifully done. There are shots in the picture that suggest the subtlety, capturing entire landscapes to get the feeling of where they are and when they are, traveling alone without aid for months. It's the subtlety in this movie that makes me feel that this is the movie David Yates had wanted to make, and this movie was his chance to make that movie. The majority of the second half focuses on the three of them, traveling together while carrying around a most disturbing object that continues to drive them mad individually. Ron decides he's had enough of watching the two of them talk amongst themselves, and then leaves them.
You think I don't know how this feels? Oh, you don't know how it feels! Your parents are dead!
The movie is still paced like any of the Harry Potter movies. It's quick, but not frantic, while still allowing us time to maybe feel just how alone these three really are, with no one to help them, and Ron listening every day to a radio in the hopes he won't hear about his own family's deaths. While it is grim, it manages to not be scary. I really enjoy watching this movie. It's the movie I feel the franchise has been leading up to, though I know what it's really doing is piling on the last blocks, as the real climax is still not for one more movie, for the most part. And while the drama has you on the edge of your seat for the majority of the film, there's still some scenes in the movie that make it at times a dramedy. A few moments of whimsy, and plenty of good humor. Need I mention again their adventure at the Ministry? Hair-raising, but done with such style you cannot help but laugh at how Harry is dressed, or how Ron accidentally introduces himself to a stranger's wife.
Thank you, Albert.
One of the few scenes that will have one's hair on edge is the scene in which Harry and Hermione are with Bathilda Bagshot at Godric's Hollow. alone with Bathilda in her quiet, dark home, before realizing they've been lured into danger by a snake. Another example is Harry, Ron, and Hermione suddenly walking right into Snatcher's clutches.
Hello, beautiful. Well, don't hang about. Snatch him!
For me, there's one other movie that's done as well in the franchise as Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. And that movie is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. As an animation enthusiast, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is the chillingly, beautifully animated story of the tale of the three brothers. Try to cheat death by making the way across a river that most people, according to the myth, have drowned in. The story, in essence, describes how the invisibility cloak came into existence as being part of three gifts that Death himself gave to the Peveril brothers. The nature of the scene is like looking at aged film, with the burned orange background and the vignette effect, adding to the effect that the characters themselves already provide by being drawn like ghosts, even though they are drawn in pitch black or stark white. Death is, of course, the spookiest, looking like a big skeleton with the baggy cloak wrapped around him multiple times. To add to this, the scene has a highly atmospheric quality that is enhanced by the lack of detail on all the characters. It's chilling, spooky, subtle, intriguing, fun, and beautifully done. I give Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 4.5 out of 5 stars. Leaving the theater, I remember thinking that this is the movie I've been waiting for. It adheres strongly to what made the books famous, being dark without necessarily being scary, keeping us compelled to see what will happen next, while still maintaining a wonderful sense of humor. It's the movie in the franchise that feels character-driven, and not as though it was made simply for the sake of product or because of plot demands, even though it was probably made to serve those two purposes as well. After a decade of Harry Potter films, we finally get a movie that does not feel like a popcorn movie. As mentioned before, the exception, for me, is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. What this film does real well is provide a sense of the epic scope the franchise is known for, the tragedy Harry has had to live with, and the constant threat these characters have had to deal with on a daily basis, and the danger these characters now face on a daily basis.
Isn't he coming with us?
Oh.
Harry?
Absolutely not.
Why?
Why? Well, because he doesn't want to, do you, boy?
Absolutely not. No. Besides, I'm just a waste of space, isn't that right, Vernon?
The constant threat of Voldemort and the people who support him, and fearing that you or your loved ones are his next targets. I hope you enjoy the movie. I thank you very much for your time. Have an awesome day.